Hi, my name is Rachelle LeBlanc, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist with work that focuses on the hook surface embroidery technique made using fabric strips that are hooked through a linen backing, a technique often called rug hooking. I'm a Canadian-American artist currently living and working in Katy, Texas, and I have an art gallery that focuses on the hook surface in the Arts District of Houston called Rachelle LeBlanc Studios in the Sawyer Yards building. I've been asked to talk to you about creativity today and how it enters my life and what I feel about it. So to begin, I want to start with telling you about a text that I received the other day from one of my students that is taking the rug hooking people master art class. And this is what it said: "You rock. Your art rocks, no matter what others think." That made me laugh. My answer was, why? What do others think? Just joking, don't care. Before I unravel what that means, let me provide you with a little origin story. So in 1990, when I moved to Montreal after graduating from Sheridan College with a design degree, when I got there, I realized that I didn't know where to find a job in my field. So this is before the internet. And what did you do before the internet when you wanted to find something? Well, you went in the yellow pages. So I went in the yellow pages and I found each and every company that I could find and called them. I got lucky. I went for an interview and I got the job. The first day on the job, I spent going back and forth to the washroom because I threw up the whole day. And when the head designer noticed that I was not feeling well, she said, you can go home. But I stayed, and I promised myself after that day, if anything ever made me scared again, I would tell myself to show up and throw up later. This saved me when I started my creative process, when I started developing my creative process. There are several steps in my process, and those steps lead me forward into the project in a very predictable way. When I'm in the process of making something and I fall into one of those pits of despair that we all fall into when we are working on something that is not working out and we don't like it, or we're afraid of going forward because we're not sure that we can do a good job, and it ends up being the absolute worst thing that you've ever made in your entire life. I talk to myself out loud when that happens. Oh, shut up. What are you talking about? This is amazing. You know what you are doing. Just look and make what you see, one loop at a time. You tell your students that it's going to be ugly until it's done and surrounded with what it's supposed to be surrounded with. So get on with it, get over yourself. You can do anything. What happens next is something really cool. It's a feeling of transcendence that starts to grow inside me. Time stops and I start working through the problem. I approach my work the same way as I approached it 1,000 times before I got blocked, but everything appears clearer, more focused. And the light from within says, I'm here to teach you how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And when that happens, the work flows out of my hands and onto the surface, and something ambiguous gets transferred into my work, and it's euphoric. I remember over 10 years ago when I first started telling people that I quit my job as a pattern maker in Montreal and I was going to devote all my time to my art practice. This was met with a fear-based reactions and comments like, aren't you afraid that you're not going to have any success? What happens if you get rejections? What happens if you spend years making art and nothing comes out of it? What if you fail? Why do people assume that when it comes for being an artist, that you're going to fail? What is it about the creative ventures that makes people so nervous about your safe being? Something that doesn't happen when you're going to study engineering or you're going to become a teacher or a doctor. Only in the creative field. The answer is yes, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of a lot of those things. But when it comes to my profession, that light that one carries inside becomes alive when I think about work and making art. Being me means being an artist. I don't understand why I should be expected to be afraid of the work that I feel that I was put on this earth to do. I discovered that when I talk to others about their art making, other artists are students, especially students. They always seem to compare themselves with others or worry about people that are not going to like their work. Why is that? I love the quote from American artist or female artist Kiki Smith, one of my favorite artists. She says, just do the work. And if the world needs your work, it will come and get you. If it doesn't, do the work anyway. I only make work that I love. Not work that guarantees a sale, not work that meets other people's expectations or ideas. If my work finds a place in the world, great. It's great. If not, it helps keep me company as I make more work. Not to mention that my house looks like an art gallery, and that gives me endless joy. It doesn't mean that I don't have anxiety about my work. I have to find a way to have a safe distance between my fear and anxiety about my work. Sometimes that means people. I create in isolation. And that I call noise. Anxiety, people, their comments, it's noise. I make my best work in isolation. The creative process is not about the end result. It's about the journey to get there. Once you develop your creative process with a clear goal and structure, it will allow you to work out a lot of the figuring out parts in advance. Once you've gone through finding the idea, making the sketch, making the color plan, dyeing your wool, transferring it onto linen, once you finally sit down to do the work, all that figuring out part has already been worked in, and your brain remembers that. So when you go to sit down and you reach for that strip and you hook it, you're doing it by instinct, you're doing it by memory, and your work is better. The noise that I'm talking about, following your own creativity will also give you the space to keep the noise out of the work. The noise like, why did you make this? Why did you use that color? Why aren't you trying to fit into the little cube that we have created so we can feel safe around you? Why are you doing everything different? Something that I have often been asked. I really believe that. I'm also a believer that you are allowed to be the first person to do something. You do not need to be taught everything. Once you know how to make a loop, it's all art after that. You are allowed to look and figure out how to translate something into your art, into your work. You are allowed to be innovative. You are allowed to control your own creativity. Creativity is about developing a skill and a process that can be managed. Creativity begins with a foundation of knowledge, learning a discipline and mastering the way of thinking. You can learn to be creative by experimenting, exploring, and questioning assumptions and using your own imagination, not an imagination that someone imposes upon you. Don't be afraid of failure or success. Just do your job. Continue to show up for yourself. And remember, the only difference between creative people and non-creative people is that creative people believe that they are creative, where the less creative people don't think they are. Change your language. Show up and throw up later. Thank you.